Everybody to the Talk Bout podcast. Even though this ain't the podcast, this is Talk Bout That. Hope you guys are having a good day. You guys can follow us on Instagram, follow us on TikTok, and subscribe here on YouTube. Today we have a great guest. He's a Brazilian Jiu Jitsu Black Belt. His name is Eric Naples. Eric, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it, man.
Yeah, man, thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. How have you been doing? How's life going? You said you were just working, right? Not too long ago?
Yeah. So I'm working up in, I was in Bristol for a little bit, but the next couple of days I'll be in Cherry Hill.
Okay, what are you doing for a living?
I'm a pipe welder.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Did you go to school for that, or did you just, how that all come to be?
Yeah, so in Delaware, there's Votech schools are big, and I went to one of them. It's called Del Castle, and I did welding for my career area or trade.
Yeah,
you know?
That's cool. So how many years was that, 2?
4, just all through high school.
Oh, you did it through high school, so that's sweet.
Yeah,
okay,
trades are really good.
Yeah, a lot of people are starting to get into that type of stuff now.
It's like that.
Yeah,
and everyone like older people that I talk to, they talk about wanting to send their kid to trade school, and I'm like, yeah, do it.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's becoming a thing now. I'm sure it always was. Trade schools always existed.
I think the option of it, people, are interested in just being able to, if people don't know what they want to do with actual academics, to be able to go into something, because some trades you can get in and out in 2 years.
Yeah.
So, I think it just gives people another opportunity. Plus, you're so hands-on with everything, right? Mm-hmm. Was it, are you sitting at a desk and a lot of pen to paper a lot of the time? Like, how did that whole process work?
It was probably like 70-30, 30 being the paperwork and like the school type stuff.
Yeah.
The other 70% was pretty hands-on. But how it worked, it wasn't like the whole day. It was like 3 periods of the day or 2 welding, and then your other 5 were academics.
Huh. Okay, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's cool. And obviously the main reason why I want you on the podcast isn't to talk about the welding career, but it's to talk about the more jiu-jitsu stuff. Obviously, you're a black belt in jiu-jitsu. You just got your black belt not too long ago, only 2-3 months ago, right?
Yeah, January.
So congratulations again on that. I'm sure that was an incredible moment for you. And, we're obviously going to get into everything. I want to talk about all the belts, kind of individually, your journey to everything. But when did you get into jiu-jitsu?
Man, it's I got to do the math now. 9 years, so I was like 13 when I first started. But I'd been into mixed martial arts and watching fighting and stuff for a couple years before that. I really liked watching UFC.
Yeah.
Remember in like 2009 or 2010, I started getting into watching UFCs, just browsing YouTube all night, watching old fights and stuff. And I played all the UFC video games. Like all the video games I played when I was that age had to do with fighting, whether it was like Fight Night Champion or the UFC games. And I always wanted to train. It just took a couple of years to convince my parents to let me go train.
Right. So you get into MMA training first, or what? Or did you?
Yeah. So my brother started jiu-jitsu in 2009, and I was already interested in the time, but my mom just, I don't know, it was like pulling teeth trying to get her to sign me up to go. So I started a couple years after my brother did. And so when I was 13 and I first started training, I wanted to do MMA because I thought that was like the coolest thing ever.
Yeah. And
about 6 months into that, there was no bad experiences that really turned me off to it. But about 6 months into that, I guess fell in love with jiu-jitsu because I realized even having not trained very long at all, I realized you can compete more, train more without getting injured, and just get more out of it. Especially if you're not, jumping in like full time. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, for sure.
Because man, MMA is different. It's tough to do it just as a hobby and then also have a second life. MMA is one of those things where you kind of have to be all in.
Yeah,
it's like everything. Like kickboxing, boxing, jiu-jitsu, like.
Yeah, to a degree, I do think grappling is a little bit easier to go part-time because of the different levels of competition. Now, if competition's not your thing, then disregard what I'm saying. But
right,
there's local tournaments. There's like shitty local tournaments, good local tournaments, and then you start getting into like the bigger like the super fights, and then the really big tournaments like worlds and trials and stuff. So the competition in jiu-jitsu is a spectrum. So that's why I think it's more friendly to the average person, whereas MMA is not.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's definitely, you know, that's something I always said to Riley about if I ever wanted to get into MMA. It's just so crazy. Like you said,
Yeah.
you know, I train jiu-jitsu 7 days a week. I'm in the gym every day. You know, if I'm around, I'm always there, especially now. But like you said, there's so many different, you know, things with MMA.
Yeah, you put your full life in
Yeah,
those.
you really gotta go 100%.
Yeah, you can't half-ass it because where there's a whole spectrum for the competition scene in jiu-jitsu, MMA is not. You know, you have amateur fighting and you have pro fighting.
Yeah.
And depending on the area you're in, some of the amateur fighters, they could be not so good, and depending on the area you're in, they can all just be killers. So you never really know what you're getting yourself into, and there's no security when you go in there half-assing it. It's dangerous.
And you actually did have an amateur MMA fight. I wanted to save that because we were going to kind of go up through, but now that we're on the topic, it kind of works out perfectly. Yeah, you did do an amateur fight. You want to speak about the amateur fight a little bit? How was the experience to, you know, not only the build-up, the actual fight itself? How did that all come about? And, you know, what was the experience like?
It was awesome, man. It's everything that you can imagine plus 10 times more. This is the intensity, the nerves, everything is multiplied by at least 10 right, in comparison to jiu-jitsu.
Wow.
Yeah, but I'm, you know, super glad I did it. I'm not opposed to doing another one. The plan was to get right back on the horse and go out there again, but you know, I took some matches in jiu-jitsu. I started having the focus from that. I stopped training, you know, just MMA for a long time. And I'm not in a position to take a fight. I haven't been training MMA, but definitely would like to go do another few.
Yeah.
You know, not just one more, but.
And obviously, you know, we're comparing MMA training, the discipline towards it compared to jiu-jitsu, but it seems as if you take jiu-jitsu extremely seriously. You know, you're always competing. You're an active competitor. You're at all these different gyms. You're teaching at gyms.
Mm-hmm.
I know you're coming back to Rev this upcoming week to do a workshop there. So yeah. And speaking of that, real quick, thank you to Penn Del Mar Power for having us, the official home of Talk Bout, and shout out Revolution. If you guys want to sign up and start your own jiu-jitsu career, go to redbjj.com and start that. But let me get back to, you know, your thing. And, you know, when you did start, you said you started at 13.
Yeah.
And how was your progression through the belts? How long did it take? I want you to kind of break down every single belt because I want to hear it from somebody who's, you know, elite in this sport, somebody who's a black belt. I want to hear, you know, every single aspect to each belt because, you know, something I'm seeing right now, I got 4 stripes on my white belt. I wrestled for 12 years. I started, you know, doing jiu-jitsu in, I think it was August. So I've been doing it for probably 8 months. I think no-gi I've been doing for 5.5.
Nice.
So, you know, I'm happy with, you know, my pace, my progression. Obviously, it's a little bit different because of the wrestling.
Yeah.
But it just fascinates me to, you know, understand every single belt and all the different things that comes with it. Not just from a teaching aspect from people coaching you, you know, when you do compete, you know, what you learned, the growth, how long it takes. I'm just interested, like, can you break down each thing? So can we start at white belt and you kind of go through and you tell me what, you know, what were the challenges? What were the things that, you know, you learned at each belt? And what, you know, what is the best things that you should be thinking about when you're at each belt for all the viewers that, you know, are in jiu-jitsu? Because most of the people who will be watching this know who you are and are probably grapplers themselves. So
yeah, for sure. So I say I started at 13. Now I'm 24. I've been training 9 years. Now I don't count that little time period when I was 13 when I was training because I only trained for 6 months and my grades sucked, so my mom took me out. It took so long to convince her to get me to train, and then I started like failing classes, and she was like, "All right, you're not doing jiu-jitsu." I was like, "All right, well now I'm gonna do even less homework." So
yeah,
and I think that I actually did do less homework, but it wasn't until I was 15 where I started consistently.
You got back, okay.
Yeah, with no breaks, and so white belt at 15, it was pretty cool. I remember I was maybe not a natural, but I was so interested that I was progressing at a rate that I was really happy with. And as far as the challenges, like you were talking about, there was nobody in that gym that was smaller than me. So I was 103 pounds or maybe 107, something like that, when I was 15. and it was just an uphill battle, and there wasn't a ton of chicks there to train with because like not really many people my size. I mean, my brother was probably the second smallest guy, and he's probably in the 140s or so.
Geez, so you're really training with everybody who's
man, and that's one of the things that I don't regret anything, but I wish I had known then what I know now about being that small and training with big people all the time. Because my lower back is really bad right now. I wish I was in a little better shape, like as far as injuries.
And
stuff.
you credit that to, you think, grappling with so many heavy guys and the weight being put on you, and
I think so.
Yeah, but wouldn't that help you, like getting like heavier guys?
Yeah, it's a trade-off.
Yeah.
So me, it kind of forced me to think about technique, like really, really early on. I don't think I had. I mean, for sure, I sucked back then, but I remember always thinking about having really good technique, or the best that I could possibly have, given how long I've been training and stuff. So it did teach me a lot. I'd like to think that I have like decent guard retention. And I definitely credit that to rolling with big people all the time, because I don't want them on top of me, so I'm gonna figure out a way to retain my guard.
Right, and when you have somebody at like 135 pounds now on top of you, even though the levels obviously have changed, you're at black belt now, and you're rolling with black belts, brown belts, purple belts, all these belts, but being that you had all these heavy guys on you, it's probably a lot easier to kick a 135-pound guy off you compared to the 180 guy.
Like if I roll with somebody that's my weight, which is very rare, I'm only like 130. I very rarely feel like threatened by certain things.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, there's not to say there's not people my size that are better than me. I can name at least 10 people that are my size or smaller that would just. But I kind of just learned to take technique seriously, because I realized how much of a size disadvantage I was at for white belt, and also I would get my ass kicked a lot. People took it easy on me for sure, but like I said, that uphill battle, it was always hard trying to stay positive and remember all the progress. There was times where I'd just consistently just get beat up during training, and I'd be really upset about it. But I never thought about, stopping or anything like that. It was just like
never crossed the mind.
No, just a speed bump. Well, there are other times I thought about, is this worth it or not? But that wasn't until later, like, years down the line after some things happened.
Right. So you how long was your progression from white belt to blue belt?
I think I got my blue belt in June of 2015, and I'd started training December 2013. So like a year and a half.
Okay, a year and a half. You go from white belt to blue belt.
Mm-hmm.
When you got your blue belt, what were the emotions like? This was the first, real promotion. What were the emotions like for a belt like that?
Well, I still remember it. I remember not like what day it was, but I remember that whole day of training. I went to open mat at 5:30, and I was rolling with a bunch of big dudes, and I was all tired, sweaty, throwing my gi on, and it was a surprise. Coach called me to the front, gave me the blue belt, and this was big to me because I was only 16. Or no. Yeah, I was 16, and there was no other juvenile blue belts at my gym at the time.
And that's as early as you can get it, right? At 16, you get your blue belt, and to get it at the youngest you can get it's a pretty big deal as well.
And I knew that, so I was really proud of myself for that, because I realized, like, it is kind of hard to get a blue belt, let alone being the smallest person in the gym and get a blue belt. So I was giving myself credit for that. I didn't really change anything as far as like training or mindset. I just kept it pushing, but I definitely was really, really happy.
Yeah, that's great. And you should be proud of yourself, because you're, like you said, you're the lightest in the gym. This is when you're at white belt too. So you're at the most basic level, that there is. And, for you to not only get your blue belt, but at the time you did is pretty interesting and obviously seems to be important to you. So then you get your blue belt. This is, from all the people I've talked to that are close to me in the gym, everybody tells me from blue to purple is like their favorite time. I'm curious to know, is it the same for you or no?
I've had some really good 6-month runs in my entire jiu-jitsu life, I guess. But from blue to purple, definitely I traveled the most. I don't want to say traveled the most, but I did things for the first time way more than any other belt, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
There was a lot of firsts for me.
It just seems like, I mean, once you get your blue belt, you got your foot in the door now.
Right.
You kind of know, you're starting to figure out your game a little bit more, and I feel like that's where you kind of really start to nitpick all the things you're doing, really learn all the nuances of the game. So you get your blue belt, and how long from blue to purple did it take for you to get your purple belt from blue belt? And what were some of the challenges that you were facing from blue to purple? Because like you were saying, at white belt, it was like, I'm the smallest guy in here. You know, I'm 103 pounds. I got all these heavy freaking geezers on top of me. And then you figure out, oh, now I got my blue belt. Now my skill is starting to get good. Now I'm sure from blue to purple, you're starting to polish your skills. How was it from blue to purple?
So blue belt was like a precursor to what the rest of my time in jiu-jitsu would be and what it could be, because I started competing a lot and I started cross-training a lot with the best people that I could find in the area. Anywhere within a 100-mile radius, I was there training. When I was I'm talking like I'm 16, 17, and 18. Just got my license, just learned how to drive, and I'm spending every weekend driving all the kinds of different gyms training, and I made a lot of friends that way. I made a lot of friends from a lot of different gyms. Some of them I'm still friends with, and some of them I'm not. Just things happen in life, and time goes on, but definitely learned the most about what training should be as a blue and a purple belt. As for the time, I think, so I said I got my blue belt June 2015. I got my purple belt on the podium at a tournament, which would have been September of 2017. So a little over 2 years.
Okay, a little over 2 years. How was it getting it? I'm guessing you get first in that tournament?
Yeah, that was the DC Open,
Okay.
IBJJF DC Open.
Is that the only time you ever got first in a tournament, or is there a lot more times?
Oh,
Just
man.
kidding.
Dude, well, I thought you were just talking about blue belt, too,
Yeah,
dude. Yeah, blue belt, I really was killing it at blue belt.
That's great.
And
yeah, no, I was just kidding.
I can tell.
I know you've gotten your first plate plenty of times.
Yeah, blue belt was sick, man, because I was 17, and I was
yeah, you're like as energetic. You got your belt. You're ready to roll now. Probably.
I could do teens divisions and adult divisions in the same day.
Wow.
And unless there was some like prodigy from New York, which I wasn't gonna run into in like Philly or anything, for the most part, but I could do an adult division, or both adult divisions, and like a ton of teens divisions,
Be okay.
and just rack matches and just
Get
run through 'em.
experience, and
Yeah.
then also step up on the podium. So when you did step up on the podium at that given tournament, your purple belt was awarded to you. How was that feeling?
It was really cool, because so what, I was 19 there. Yeah, I had just started getting into like doing IBJJF tournaments, which were a big deal to me at the time, because they were in New York, DC. We went, and the first time I did Worlds was at blue belt, and I had just gotten off from like losing first round at Worlds that summer, so I was not bent, but. Or no, I didn't lose first round. I lost in the second round, but same thing. I didn't medal.
Right.
So not that I was upset, but I was just starting to realize what the level needs to be if I want to be a successful competitor. So I go and I win that open tournament in DC, and I had no idea. Like sometimes, you could read the room and you tell like what's going to happen or what's going to go down. I had no reason to believe that I was going to get promoted that day or even just after that tournament. But I did. I happened to win. I had 2 matches that day, and my girlfriend was there. She was in on it, and yeah, so that was.
She knew about it?
Yeah.
And same girlfriend that you have now?
Uh-huh.
And congratulations to her. I saw that she just got her
Yeah.
black belt. That's pretty awesome that it wasn't too far after when you got yours. Was that a special moment to you too? I want to come back to this, but
Yeah.
just, as, the boyfriend too as well. Was that a special moment for you?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It is a strange, not strange, but it's a special kind of thing when you and person you spend the most time with are both black belts.
I know.
Yeah.
And you share that same passion and have the same goals.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. How long have you guys been together?
2016, so.
So you guys have gone through this ride together pretty much.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
we
geez.
met when we were blue belts.
Wow,
Mhm.
that's awesome,
Jeez.
man. So good for her, and congratulations
Good.
as well. So
Congrats.
you get your purple belt, and then, after the purple belt, Rod, do you mind hitting that?
Yeah.
After you get your purple belt, this is where things start to probably, get to the advanced level. I would say
Yeah.
once you know, from my perspective, it white belt is, you know, as basic as it gets. Blue belt, I would say you're a solid grappler. Purple belt is where, you know, things start to get really real.
Yeah.
And that's just coming from my perspective. And it seems that you agree. And, you know, what was it like from your purple belt to brown belt experience? You know, this is, like I said before, from the people I've spoke to, most people like to tell me that their blue belt is the most fun they had.
Mhm.
And they say when getting your purple belt, you know, Jamie even has talked about how when he got his purple belt, it was probably one of the best. I even talked to Tom. He said when he got his purple belt, he said that was one of the best. You talk to some guys, you know, purple belt seems to be getting it is one
Mhm.
thing, but going from purple to brown, how was that whole experience? What were the challenges, you know, within, you know, that belt as well?
So when you're like a white belt, you look at purple belts and you think, man, I don't know if I could ever be that good. But then it just happens and you don't even think about that anymore. It doesn't make sense. Like, why did I think that I couldn't be that good? Like, this is not easy, but it was nothing special. Anyone can get a purple belt. So it's funny to see how that your mentality changes once you do get there. But it still was a huge milestone. But I will say, purple belt was really depressing at times for me because, like you said, it starts to get a little bit more advanced, and
More politics and
yeah, man. You know how it is. I was doing all these tournaments at blue belt, and I continued to compete at purple belt, and I had like really mixed results. And by mixed, I mean like I wasn't doing so good all the time anymore. Like blue belt, like shit got real.
yeah.
I was upset because I was still doing everything I was doing, cross training, really caring about technique and trying to get better. I made even more friends who were, you know, at a high level, and I, you know, we kind of feed off of each other. Still talk to some of those guys today, but man, when I would lose in the worst ways, and it was like, am I wasting my time, or like, what am I doing wrong?
So this is the time where you were kind of thinking about everything.
I was like, dude, I'm 19. I could be doing so much other stuff. I could be, you know, building a future for myself, but I'm just sitting here taking planes out to these places, people I don't know. Obviously, you know, Jess would travel with me all the time, so
Right.
I don't, you know, regret spending any time with her doing this stuff, but it was like, I'm not getting the results I wanted. What's going on? Am I really just not putting in enough work, or is this not for me? Do I suck? Am I not, you know, just cut out for it? And part of it was, I think a lot of it had to do with my mentality when I compete. A problem I have in a lot of matches, even the ones today, if I lose a match, it has to do with me being like afraid to pull the trigger in the match and do things that I know I can do when I train, but maybe I second guess myself in the match. And that was happening a lot at purple belt, especially because I started doing more no-gi stuff. I had some super fights and I was in a tournament for finishers. And for a while, like I did like 3 straight super fights, or 4 probably. Yeah, 4 straight super fights for different promotions where I was just consistently getting heel hooked.
Mm.
And then that was a whole other thing because
that's where, sorry to interrupt you, but that's where heel hooks are starting to become legal too. So it's like a whole other thing now. You got to kind of practice to defend and everything.
And everybody wants to do them. And the thing about being a purple belt competing in rules like that is the other dude can suck at leg locks like really bad.
And can rip your ankle.
Yeah, but if you don't know what you're doing either, it doesn't matter that they suck. You're gonna lose because they think they know what they're doing and they're confident, and then you don't know what you're doing and you're scared, and you just get busted up. And that's what was happening to me. I didn't know what I was doing and I wasn't confident, and that was messing with my head too. So from purple to brown, the same drive that I had to get better at jiu-jitsu, I had that drive to get better at just specifically no-gi and leg locks, and I really haven't stopped working on that since. I don't know if there was a loss that was like the straw that broke the camel's back, but I was like, dude, getting heel hooked is every match is just not it, man. It's getting old. Like
so that's where you really started to get into leg locks, purple belt.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's interesting as well. So you go through this, you know, sort of a rough patch. Like you said, you weren't performing the way you wanted to perform.
Mm-hmm.
You're flying out to all. It was probably just getting drained. You know, you're just like sick of it probably at that point. But you do eventually get your brown belt.
Mm-hmm.
And how long from purple to brown belt was it for you?
Purple belt was 2017. Brown belt was December of 2019 or no, January 2020, I think, one of the two. So
A little over 2.5 years.
yeah, a little over 2 years.
Okay, so that's pretty good as well. And then you get your brown belt. And when you got your brown belt, were you like, thank God at this point you want to get this purple belt off, or like was it the same? Like, how was like your? Because again, like what I'm trying to kind of nitpick from your perspective is, it almost seems like when you're a white belt, you're looking up and you're like, I want the black belt. You know what I mean? But I feel like as you continue to get your belts, it becomes less and less, I don't know, meaningful, maybe until you get your black belt. I mean, we're not there yet, but when you got your brown belt, how was the emotion compared to getting your purple and blue belt as well?
The same as far as how excited I was, but for different reasons.
Okay.
When I was blue belt, I was just happy to see the progress. Purple belt, I knew I was still making that progress, but I was like, man, it's nice to see that teammates and coaches can also see how much I'm progressing. And purple belt is something that's not taken lightly. You don't just get one because your coach feels bad for you.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it takes. I mean, the average for a purple belt is like at least 3 to 5 years, right? I mean, if you think about it,
probably 5 for most people.
So you got yours, and when you got it, it's like I said, that's my point. Like once you get your purple belt, it's like you know what you're doing now. Like
right.
You still aren't black, you still aren't brown belt, but
well, I wouldn't say you know what you're doing. You know what you want to do.
Okay.
And sometimes you just can't like articulate it via grappling.
Gotcha. Okay, and then you do get your brown belt, and like you said, for different reasons. What were some of the reasons that you were happy that you got your brown belt? We just took like 10 minutes to talk about all the stuff that sucked. What were some of the things that were making you happy when you got that brown belt? Like you said,
may not make sense if I put it into words, but it was almost like it was a refresh button. So I took a lot of really bad losses at purple belt. I remember one time I was crying under the bleachers at no-gi pans. I lost first round by 2 points. That was crazy because I was winning by 1 point, and then after the match, the ref went over to the table and started talking to the table workers, and I already knew. It was not like I had a premonition or anything, but I just knew that it was not going to go my way. I see the 3 on the board go to a 0, and he raises the other guy's hand, and I just couldn't believe it. Between me just doing the 7-minute match and the emotional, like I guess the adrenaline dump mixed with the roller coaster of emotions of me winning and then losing, I couldn't handle it, and I just broke down. That was definitely the lowest point in my entire jiu-jitsu. It was embarrassing the way I was acting, man. It was bad, but
sometimes it's like that, though.
Dude, yeah, I just need to be left alone for like 35 minutes, probably.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But it could have been it could have been longer. I don't really remember.
Yeah, nobody was rolling with Eric after the bleacher incident.
Nah, man.
You're getting heel hooked.
It was brutal. Except I didn't know how to heel hook back then.
Oh yeah, I guess you're still at that point, right?
But getting the brown was cool because it was like a reset button. Even though it wasn't, it's still day to day. But for me, I could look down, see the brown belt, and think, okay, this is a fresh start. And also, I knew that people started taking you a little bit more seriously as a competitor when you're a brown belt. And I was kind of looking ahead, thinking, man, if I do good, I could start to get some really cool opportunities for competition. Get some matches that'll really, I don't even know, just get matches against good people to really prove to myself that I am doing the right thing, because that's what it's all about.
Propelling you to the next level, especially. I mean, when you get your brown belt, that's where there's only one more belt above it. And it's the belt that everybody wants. The belt of jiu-jitsu. And when you do get your brown belt, how long was it from brown belt to black belt? Same question. What were the challenges? What were the good things? What were your emotions like at brown belt? Because we just went through blue belt. It was great. Purple belt, not so great. Where were you at with brown belt?
Brown belt, I look back and I'm definitely happy with brown belt. Could I have done more? Yeah, but the reason I didn't were just things that were my fault, and I can't change any of that. But I am happy with what I did and how I trained, and the people I started to train with and become friends with, and also the habits that I was building for my jiu-jitsu. I really cemented them at brown belt. And as far as competition goes, I did pretty well at brown belt. Like I won a couple opens. I won no-gi pans. I got second at Worlds, and not to mention all the other super fights and stuff.
Yeah, that's great, man.
But besides the super fights and the local things that I did, just those things that I mentioned alone, that was enough for me to be happy with what I did, because from the beginning of brown belt to the end of brown belt, it was like two different people, man. The progress was insane. And I don't know if anybody else would notice it, but I didn't really care because I could notice it myself,
And that's really all that matters at the end of the day.
Yeah, the mats don't lie. You know exactly how good you are, whether you want to lie about it or not.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day.
No, I appreciate that we just had Dave on the podcast, and Dave is like the most humble human being I think I've ever met. Yeah. And it's so hard to break his shit. I mean, if I said to Dave right now, I can double leg take down you 10 times out of 10, he would probably say, yeah, he probably could, just because of how humble he is. I appreciate, Ashley, you kind of telling people what it is, because you're an animal, dude. I mean, you are an animal. I mean, I see the social medias will come up, and, you guys need to go look at Eric's stuff, because it's absolutely unbelievable. And, I was even told at a time you were ranked, this could be even still, I don't know. That's why I want to ask. You were ranked number 13 in your weight class in the country. Is that true?
So not even in my weight class. I competed 25, and I was ranked number 14 at 135.
Okay.
Inactivity, and I lost a match I shouldn't have lost. Right now, I think I'm number 21.
Wow.
And
that's unbelievable.
At 135. I don't even weigh 135 pounds either. So
that's great, man.
When I woke up, I mean, okay. That's so cliche. Oh, I woke up and I saw it. No, like someone sent it to me.
It's all good. It's all good.
They're like, you're number 14 in the world.
Eric's got people sending it to him. He doesn't even care. He's not even looking at it anywhere. He's just like, Assistant Joe's like, Eric, you're 21 today.
Yeah. I was like, holy shit, that's awesome.
Yeah, man, that's freaking awesome. Congratulations on that.
Dude.
Then you get your black belt. Obviously, it was this year, 2023. So you went from 2020 to 2023.
Mm-hmm.
So 3 years. And you got your black belt under 10 years, too, which is very, very good. Congratulations on that, too.
That's a cool little milestone.
Yeah, for sure. And you get your black belt. What were the emotions like getting your black belt? I know this is probably like, was it truly the pinnacle? Was this like, I did it,
Yes and no, because life still goes on, like I said before. But
and you're still grappling. Like, it's not like you just retired.
For sure. It was definitely like one of the happiest days of my life. But on the flip side, in that same night, I realized that everything that we just talked about, blue belt, all the tournaments, the teens division I was doing, the traveling I did, going to Texas, Florida, California for all these competitions, I noticed that all that stuff that I did it's over now. That's in the past, and I'm no longer like a blue, purple, or brown belt that's like chasing the dream. I'm just a black belt now, and whatever I do it
at the highest level.
In the present now. Yeah, it's what it has to be.
Yeah.
There's no more. Obviously, I say there's no more having fun, but when you go to compete, things do get a little bit more serious. Now there's black belts out there that they don't really compete as much as some people, and they just stick to like local tournaments, and that's fine. I always tell people, like, nobody's too good to just go and do a local tournament. That's where I really found out my game at like blue and purple belt, just doing a bunch of locals all the time. Because I didn't come from money to where I could be jumping on a plane every 2 weeks and going to the IBJJFs. I had to do it locally. And I'm glad I did, because that it taught me a lot, just taking all those matches. But back to what I was saying about being a black belt and competing now. Well, now it's serious. I don't have really, I can't afford to make the mistakes that I made at blue and purple and stuff like that. I have to take everything seriously, and if it means not taking matches because I can't get myself ready, then that's what it is. Because let's be honest, when you are a black belt and a competitor, you're operating on a professional level. Whether you live a professional lifestyle or not, that's for you to decide. Do you or do you not? But when people see that you're a black belt competitor, they're going to assume that you are a professional, and you should hold yourself to that standard and do the best that you can to operate as a professional.
Yeah, right. For sure. And I'm so happy and thank you so much for breaking it through like that. I mean, that was like incredible, great stuff. And people will really appreciate that. Like, are at the top level. I know people are probably asking you more for advice now. I'm sure you're teaching more. Like you said, you're doing more workshop stuff. What would be some advice? I have 2 questions here.
Okay.
What would be some advice for somebody who is just getting into the game? What would be advice? What would you say from all your experience would be advice for that? And then what would be your advice for somebody who's about to compete for the first time? I'm about to compete on Saturday. for the Good Fight tournament that's happening. And
Nice, dude.
so it's my first competition. So I want to know advice to a new grappler and advice to somebody who's going to be stepping in for the first time and actually competing.
So, advice to people who are just starting out, I would say, well, first, if people look to me for advice because they think that I am at the highest of the highest levels, I would say that they're wrong. And there is when you get to black belt, that is the only belt where the skill gap is as big as every other belt combined.
Yeah,
man, there's some, like I was saying a few minutes ago, there's people my size that would absolutely wipe the mat with me, and I don't have business being on the same mat as them. And I can name drop if you want me to. Those dudes do exist. So that keeps me in check just knowing that. But also, if somebody were to ask me, about just starting out, like training wise, mentality and stuff, I would say that the biggest thing that you can do that's going to be like detrimental to your progress is comparing yourself to who you're in the room with. I mean, think about it. You're in the same room as them. You pay the same money as them to be there. They're just trying to do what you want to do. And if you gauge your progress in who you're beating, especially when you're a white or a blue belt, if you gauge your progress in who you're beating in your own gym, that's like no good. You don't know if the dude is even trying. You don't know if he's injured. You don't know if he had a shit day at work and he's just like out of it.
Yeah.
It's just kind of, you're only hurting yourself because you don't know all the variables. If you don't compete and you win a match, go ahead, use that to base it off of, because that's a stranger and he's there to scrap. He's really coming at you. But I would say don't gauge yourself off of people in the training room. You can sometimes, but if you do it every single time you train, it becomes a little bit of a problem. And I think that's where ego and jealousy comes into play too, man. Jealousy is a big thing in gyms. Not mine. Luckily, I don't have any kind of problem with that. Everybody that I train with is pretty cool, and it's like that for a reason. I don't want to have to die. Look, I got way too much stuff going on in my life to worry about another man and if they're better at fucking arm bars than me.
Yeah.
I don't care. I'm there to get better for myself.
Yeah.
And also the people that I invest time in. To really make sure that they're hitting their goals too. I want them to get better, but man, comparing yourself to your teammates, it's only going to hurt you. So that's the one thing that I would say. Now, if we're talking about competing, like your first time competing, if I had any advice for that, man, I would just say it's going to sound stupid because everybody says it, but that first one, just have fun. Do things that you're good at when you train, and do things that maybe you don't even train. You just get an idea, and it's kind of a spur of the moment thing. Literally just have fun with it, because 5 years from now, because you wouldn't even remember it if it wasn't like, recorded or on video.
Right.
So, it doesn't even matter, man. Just go out there and do the thing.
Yeah. I've been trying to think, like when Sunday morning comes and I wake up, nobody's going to be thinking about the tournament if I win, loss, if I got first, if I got last. Nobody's going to be thinking about it except me. Nobody's going to care. You know what I mean? So I'm just trying to...
So part of the reality is, people are always going to ask how you did and stuff. They're going to they're either going to say, oh, he did really good. And then they're going to be like, damn, good for him. Or they're going to be like, he got fucked up.
Yeah.
And then they're going to be like, oh.
Yeah.
Like they're gonna
It is
know,
what it is. You know what I mean?
There's nothing you could do to change that. I've gotten submitted in really embarrassing ways, and I've had people watching on the stream, and it's just like, what am I gonna do? Say I didn't get submitted? I did. Everybody watched it.
That's how you get better, though, too.
Yeah, it's all part of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, big thing. Like we were supposed to go to UFC 288. It's in Newark, New Jersey.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Dude, tickets were so expensive, man.
Yeah, they are expensive.
Like,
but
when I
crazy.
checked, it was like $800 for like crappy tickets, man.
It can be bad. And but the only reason why we didn't is because Charles Oliveira got pulled off the card and they postponed him. So
who is he fighting? Benil?
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, man, I've liked Benil for a long time, dude.
Oh, I'm a big Charles fan.
Are you?
Yeah.
Oh, I am too. But see, I've watched Charles fight.
You grab his legs. I'll grab.
Yeah.
I've watched Charles fight since like he was first in the UFC, like 2012.
Yeah, he's got a great story.
Yeah.
I mean,
Maybe
coming
even
in the
before.
UFC, being 10-8 at so young, and then comes back, gets 11 wins under his belt, becomes the champion, defends it multiple times. It's going to be a great fight. It's going to be a really challenging fight. I'm so nervous. I can't even think about it because it's going to be so difficult. I mean, the grappling exchanges that could possibly happen. I hope I almost hope they stay standing though. But
Really?
Dariush has that dude. I mean,
You know what's funny about Dariush, man?
he's a turd.
He knocks dudes out, but he's so slow.
Yeah, he's so weird. He's
Yeah.
got
It's awkward, but it's
Enough.
not like Tony Ferguson awkward. It's
yes, it's like so weird, and he doesn't promote himself. He doesn't even care.
Right.
He's, he can rack up 30
He's
wins. He'll
just-
never get a title shot. It's like dirt in a bag.
like,
That's all.
like I'm sure he's a great striker, but
Oh yeah, I mean he dropped it last fight, Gamrot.
Oh, my
he sent his
gosh.
head to freaking
yeah.
Jupiter.
Mars.
Yeah, it was bad.
I took my friend to Buffalo Wild Wings to watch like his first UFC on pay-per-view, and it was the one where Beneil knocked out Drakkar Klose.
Okay, dude, he's got some crazy knockouts.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, if you look at his highlight reel,
And dude, the whole restaurant was so
Probably
hyped for that knockout
Yeah.
because Beneil just
bet.
got his bell rung.
and you're big into the UFC. Do you still watch now?
Oh, dude, there's very few fights in the past like 5 years that I haven't seen.
That's awesome.
UFC
So we
is
could, that's great that we could talk about this. Well, what are your
Yeah.
predictions on UFC 288 that's coming up this Saturday? Obviously, the main event is
Cejudo,
Aljamain
right?
Sterling against Henry
Cejudo.
Cejudo, co-main event. Gilbert Burns against Belay Muhammad. What do you think about those two fights?
Man, Aljamain's good, dude. I didn't want to believe it for the longest time, but he really is something else.
Yeah, he really is a good wrestler.
Yeah, I remember when I saw him just jump on Sandhagen's back and just finish him in like
Oh, yeah.
50 seconds. I was
Oh
like,
my
what?
God.
And what he's becoming now, though, Sandhagen's got such a funky style, and
Yeah.
he throws so many different things. Like, you don't know where he's coming. You don't know if you got a head kick coming for you,
Mhm.
a right hand coming for you, a left hand coming for you.
Or a knee.
He's all or a knee.
Yeah.
Ask Frankie Edgar.
The thing is, we don't know if Sandhagen were to rematch Aljamain, we don't know if that fight would
It'd
go
be
any
the
different
same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
because
Of how much better Sterling's even got, too, right?
Yeah.
and the fight. I know short fights aren't really an indicator of skill, but we didn't get to see Aljamain deal with Sandhagen striking, and we didn't get to see Sandhagen deal with Aljamain's like chain wrestling and stuff.
Yeah, and if he's
it's
able,
just one exchange.
exactly, if he's able to stop the wrestling on the feet, I believe it would be cakework for Sandhagen.
Right.
He is so good. I think him and Suga are the
really
two best
good.
strikers in that. And
Dude,
Petr Yan's crazy.
You know,
too.
I tell people that I think O'Malley is the best striker in the UFC, and people just like
I don't know why people
I
think,
think
it's fun.
so.
He
Dude,
just because he's
the hate I get for that. They're like,
They're
you
like,
serious?
are
Like,
you
what is wrong with
serious?
you?
look at him. Look
But
at him. He's got
insane.
great striking, man. Go hard. Like you got Poirier, you got Bejeda. I mean,
Yeah,
it's kind
man.
of hard to say Alex Bejeda's kickboxing. I mean, he was just on the floor with his eyes rolled.
Now
down.
it depends on what your definition of best striker is, because I got some crazy takes on people who I think are some of the best strikers.
I think Petr Yan's up there. I would
Yeah.
say Petr. My top five, not in any order, but Poirier, Ever. Or are we talking about active?
Both, because
Okay. Well, if McGregor's counts as an active, his counter punching is number one.
yeah, and see, that's how you have to think about it. When I give off a crazy take, I shouldn't have to justify it.
Who's somebody who would be like kind of like who's
man.
not like an Israel Adesanya, who
So-
like most people would say.
So I think Donald Cerrone in his prime had some of the best offense.
You know
hands
what?
down.
He's got some of the best fights, though. I'll tell you that, for a fact, too.
that as well.
He's fought probably everybody in the
He has
UFC. That's why he's
combinations.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
dude.
I
His
mean,
head kicks.
The setups for his head kicks are just
Yeah.
flawless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got the most head kick knockouts in UFC history.
I
Who's
think
the best?
he whacked Jim Miller with one right before he
Oh.
got guillotined.
Yeah,
it was
Jim
pretty
Miller.
nice. But he
Yes,
caught
it was. It stunned him. Yeah, I remember that fight. That was it. That was his
Yeah.
last fight, right?
Yeah.
it
Yeah,
was.
against Jim Miller. What were you gonna say, Rob?
Who do you think's the best grappler? In the
Oh
UFC?
God, this is a very
Yeah.
tricky question. You mean straight up wrestling,
I know.
jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, just best straight up grappler. Yo, there's a lot of people that just strike.
I think we should separate jiu-jitsu and wrestling.
Hmm.
Because the same, like grappling, I know it's all like the same, but it's like kind of not. Like who I think is the best wrestler
Oh.
and the best grappler
Yeah.
are different, in my opinion.
I think because of consistency throughout the career, you have to take into account consistency.
Are we
throughout
talking
the
about ever
career.
too?
Yeah, we're talking about ever. I
Oh.
think so.
Well, ever.
Man,
Oh.
you can go 5 different ways with ever, and I'll probably get to all 5.
Yeah, please.
But when you say the best, people don't realize that
This will probably be a clip too, so we can get all the UFC fans
Yeah,
mad.
Yeah.
This is
there is a such thing as recency bias, because a good example of that is Jorge Masvidal. Dude, everybody thought that he was like
man.
gonna take out Usman, and it's just guys get on hot streaks, man,
Yeah.
and they
Yeah.
look good for a little bit.
Masvidal's record is 35 and 20.
It is.
You know what I mean? Like he had a good run
Like
when he
6
knocked
wins,
out.
6 losses.
He was on a hot streak.
Yeah, he had a good run. He knocked out Darren Till, then he took out Askren, then he had the thing with Diaz. Like he did well.
He still is good.
And he's still. I mean,
No,
I'm
he
not
doesn't.
standing.
He
I'm
doesn't
not.
suck. He
Yeah,
does not suck.
Yeah, I'm not standing with him. Tell you that for a fact.
But for the top
Yeah,
5,
yeah,
top
with an
10,
Usman, dude, we're talking about one of the greatest to ever.
Yeah,
Right.
I was gonna say lace up a pair of boots, but he's got his all 5 toes sticking
Yeah.
out, so there's no boots there. But
So how long have you been watching MMA? Because I'll tell you one of my best hot takes that I get hated on for.
well, it's been very different. So like my UFC progress is like crazy. So I used to be so into professional wrestling, WWE and all that.
I never was.
That was my life. I mean, ask Riley.
Yeah.
Life.
You too?
No, no.
Oh.
But it was my life. And so much so my life that when I was 16, I went to MCW, a wrestling school, and I started training.
Oh, sick.
And I did 3 months, and I propelled very well. I went from the beginner's class to the rosters class, and you can't even, wrestle on shows until you're 18. Now, I've done everything. I've played football. I've played basketball. I've wrestled for school. I've done professional wrestling.
Wait, you played football?
Done jiu-jitsu. Yeah, I did it all through elementary school
I
and
didn't
middle
even know
school.
that.
So I did all this stuff, but to this day, I still will say nothing is harder and hurts more than professional wrestling. The fake stuff that everybody says, it's crazy. But after I hurt a disc in my back. After that, my passion for wrestling started to change a little bit.
Yeah.
And through that time, I started to start liking the UFC. Now, I was always a McGregor fan. Only cared about McGregor and knew nothing about the UFC. But
Can't blame you for that.
and what I vividly remember is when I really started to watch like every pay-per-view is when it was Gaethje against Khabib in Abu Dhabi, which wasn't that long ago. It's only
to me that seems like yesterday.
Yeah, it's like 2.5 years ago. That was the first time I remember I said to you, I was like, dude, you actually I think came over at the end when he was retiring. I don't know if you remember that. But Khabib, when he retired, is kind of when I started really getting into it.
Yeah.
Like I could tell you probably most of the top 15, definitely the top 10 in every division.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So like me and Riley are very all of Talk Bout is built on the UFC. We just had our first UFC fighter on the podcast.
I saw
yesterday,
that.
Marcus McGee.
Yep.
He just got signed. It was an absolute honor, and we're going to get him back on.
Who is he friends with?
Tim Welch and Sean O'Malley.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. So we're it was super blessed to be able to get him on. So,
sick, man.
But for a little bit. So I would say into it, 2 years.
Okay. So you may not even know the person I'm about to say, but when people talk about the greatest heavyweights of all time, that just reminded me of another one. I say the greatest heavyweight striker ever is Mirko Krokop.
I've heard.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
I when we're talking about results and consistency throughout the career, I think it's Krokop.
Good striker.
People have tried to tell me Cyril Gagne, but he only has 10 pro.
It's hard.
I know. I say he only has 10 pro fights, but he's fought the best of the best in the UFC in his last 4.
Derek Lewis, John Jones,
right?
Stipe. No, he didn't fight Stipe.
Francis Ngannou.
Yeah, I mean, come on,
dude. People are shitting on me so bad, and I'm like, look, I know that he's like number 2 in the world right now, but you gotta understand.
Yeah.
There's different eras, and he was like, oh, the game's changed. He would fuck Krokop up. Like, I don't know. They never fought. I don't know that for sure. You're definitely right. The game's changed, but I'm talking about results.
But
man.
he would be standing up anyway. Cyril Gagne ain't taking no fight to the floor.
Right.
Not right now, at least.
No.
I think all he's doing right now is probably wrestling bears with Khabib. But
after that Jones fight.
But we never answered this question. I'm very interested. So let's go around. I'll start with Riley. Who do you believe is the best wrestler in the UFC right now?
Oh, yeah.
And the best jiu-jitsu grappler? They're different. It's hard to put them on the same thing.
Hamzat is the best wrestler, and I think jiu-jitsu, Oliveira.
Okay.
Charles.
So for jiu-jitsu, man,
So.
I'd hate to jump on the bandwagon and say Oliveira, but
He does have the most finishes.
it's gonna have to be by default.
Yeah.
Now there's some other people that are like Dariush is definitely a close second,
So
man.
good, dude.
But
He's
before
really good.
before Damian Maia retired, I would say Damian Maia, and I would say of all time jiu-jitsu practitioners, either Damian Maia or Fabricio Verdum.
Yeah. You know what's so interesting is I also think somebody who doesn't get, mentioned as much, which is kind of weird because he's like the most active fighter in the UFC right now, is Gilbert Burns. I think Gilbert Burns grappling is like
oh my god, man.
crazy.
Dude, he did bad things to Magny.
He
Definitely might
that
be
was
third.
a horrible.
Third.
It was bad. Like, that's talk about levels, right? The guy's
Mhm.
ranked 11. He's ranked 5.
And Magny's
Look at the
good,
gap.
man.
Yeah.
He's tall, too. Lengthy guy. Got range on him. Gilbert just goes right in, takes him down. Done.
Yeah.
First
Getting his
round.
third fight.
It was bad.
I've
I
watched-
would say he's 3.
Billy Muhammad.
I watched Magny for a while, and like he didn't, he wasn't number 11 or whatever the ranking was by accident. That dude has legit wins, man. He's good.
No, for sure. I think you have to say Charles is number 1,
Right.
Because of the most finishes. I'm a little bit biased because I'm a big fan of him, but Dariush is probably 2. Burns probably 3. And then you got Gamrot and you got Targarewski or whatever the hell.
Yeah.
Dude.
I don't know how to say his name.
I know, but getting a wrestling mat on.
Yo,
with him,
I'll tell you what.
a
I know
grappling mat.
he just
Whatever.
got knocked
Any
out.
mat.
He just got knocked out, but there is a dude named Jimmy Flick. He's a flyweight.
I've never heard of him.
I saw him on Contender Series, and he subbed this dude, and then he fought Cody Durden, I believe. Hit him with a flying triangle, and I started looking up his fights. The dude's jiu-jitsu is insane,
Is
man.
it?
Yeah.
Jeez. Dude, flyweights don't get enough shine. Oh, Brandon Moreno's jiu-jitsu is crazy, too.
Yeah, for sure.
He's
He's
so
a very
good,
good grappler.
He's
I mean-
freak of nature.
And, yeah, it's crazy. And then for wrestling, you said Hamzat. Riley, by the way, is the biggest Hamzat fan in the world.
yeah.
Now, not a bad take, but who would you say is the best wrestler actively in the UFC?
So wrestling could be, like, we're talking about, getting in there and finishing fights and utilizing the wrestling to be dominant. Then he's not active anymore. Khabib is one that comes to mind.
He's number 1.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think
All time. he's
Chimaev,
Yeah.
Chimaev definitely is. But I tend to gravitate more towards strikers when I'm looking for people that I like to watch. But
Yeah.
I will say this is going to be a hot take, but Merab has extremely good wrestling.
Riley's also favorite fighter. No, but
You hate Merab,
I
huh?
know,
Least.
but
Whoa.
dude, he
He does-
is
he-
so
Him or Khalil
good,
Muhammad.
dude.
They're both.
Yeah, he hates Muhammad.
Yeah.
He's
To me,
so
I don't
cool.
hate Muhammad or anything. There's
It's
I don't really
just
hate any
He's
fighter.
just got a huge nose. It's just
kinda-
hard.
Yeah,
It's
you just gotta
it's-
say it.
He looks like French
Come on.
Montana.
Yeah.
I mean, he would
On that
destroy
cartoon?
me. I'm
What was
saying, like, if I
forget what it's called.
I'm not fighting Belay Muhammad, tell you that for a fact.
Yeah.
But his nose is huge.
Yeah.
Let's be real.
I can appreciate the way he fights, man. I really like that he keeps the pace.
And he likes to just kind of get it done. I mean, he's got one finish in his whole career.
Yeah.
So,
Who?
Muhammad.
Oh, yeah.
That's the thing that I don't like, though. It's like, oh, I'm on an 8-fight win streak. I'm this, that, and the other. And it's like, hold on, Jimmy. You finished one fight in
Hold
your
on,
whole
Jimmy.
career. One fight. And you're talking about Gilbert Burns, the guy who just fought last week. Literally
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
co-main event. Now he's fighting again.
You know
It's
what
just
pissed
like
me off?
Colby Covington getting the next title shot.
Not
Oh,
that.
Oh, okay. Well, that pissed me off.
The way that Bilal fought Wonder Boy, dude.
Oh, yeah.
I was almost crying.
Well, he's just so. Oh,
But I
well,
can't
but
blame
you know
him,
what?
dude.
Here's
Why-
the thing. Yeah, Wonder Boy freaking kicking you in the head. Good night.
Why would you want to
Can't.
like make that an option?
You're
So
gonna be hitting for those.
But
legs.
the way he fought Sean Brady, he did beat the crap
that
out
was
of him.
sick, man. I rewatched that fight.
And I wasn't expecting that. I was not expecting Sean Brady to lose that fight.
Yeah, Sean Brady just hit a wall.
Dude, he was getting pieced. Now, maybe it was because the Eagle was in his corner.
Maybe too big of a jump.
well, I
I don't know.
heard
Yeah,
that.
because it was like a 8-5 or something.
Yeah.
You think, just because this is Riley's favorite guy and he is so good, you think Hamzat is going to be one of the greatest to ever fight?
No,
No.
I don't think so.
Oh, let's debate this.
He's on a
Really?
hot. He's on a hot streak right
you
now.
think he's on just a hot streak?
Yeah, I mean, who's his best? So what? He tore up Kevin Holland.
Okay,
Okay.
yeah, that we were there
Oh
live.
my gosh.
Oh, really?
That was our
Yeah.
first ever UFC.
So
It was the greatest weekend.
That's
ever.
going
So he
crazy.
went and he spanked Kevin Holland.
Yeah.
and
Literally.
then he beat Burns, which that was a good win. That's a very good. The way that he beat him too.
Great
Yeah.
fight.
Now
Super close.
Do you think he won?
I wasn't there judging, and I know it could be a totally different fight when you're cage side, but it was within the realm of possibility that Burns would get his hand raised.
You
Oh,
just be
yeah.
honest. You felt like that. Did you feel like on the night like before they raised the hand? Did you think he won?
I was hoping Burns won because I knew it was possible. Again, I'd have to rewatch the fight and really go round by round. Like I had to do the same thing with Jones and Gustafsson won.
Oh my gosh, what a great fight that was. That's one of the greatest fights I've ever seen.
Yeah, people say that they think Gustafsson won, but I watched it.
I watched it too.
I
had a 3-2. I had a 3-2
for Jones, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to score it for Gustafsson, really.
Yeah.
But dude, you want to watch a fight? That's the fight to watch.
Is.
I mean, for real. I'm shocked that you think
I think Hamzat won round 1
and 3. Yeah, 2 was definitely Gilbert.
Didn't Burns drop him?
Yeah,
Almost
in the
knock him
second
out.
round, yeah.
That was the second, not the
Well,
third.
I wouldn't say not because what was happening is after he got dropped, they took him down.
Got a takedown.
Like he literally got
yeah.
dropped, like he was stunned and completed a takedown at the same time. It's so hard not to respect that guy, though.
It's Hamzat or Islam is the best wrestlers.
Oh yeah, we didn't even talk about Islam, but Islam's crazy too. But Volk, man,
Dude, to be honest,
but Volk won that fight, I think.
all right, we're bouncing. Like,
Yeah, I know.
Nah, I don't think so.
Really?
Really?
I don't think Volk won that fight. And look,
I don't think so either. And I'm a Volk fan. He's top 5 in my list,
Right.
and I don't think I think Islam won the fight. I said it. We said it on the night.
Really?
You well, you said Volk.
Like a couple days after you said switched
It's
back
hard.
and
It's
forth.
hard to not say. It's so hard to not give Islam a round when he has a body triangle on the guy for 4 minutes.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
so hard. I mean, I get it.
Yeah,
he
but
didn't
he's
do
throwing
it.
punches
I know,
from his back.
But
So
how did
there
he
was
get
another
there?
fight.
How did he get there? I'm debating against the guy I don't even like. I'm a Volk guy, but
It was Bill Algeo versus Andre Fili. Andre Fili had Bill Algeo on a body triangle, and Bill Algeo was lighting him up, gave him a knot on his face from throwing punches, and people online were like, "Well, he won that round. He was landing more shots." But at the end of the day, man, if you're in something like a body triangle,
to get there is hard.
Yeah.
it is.
So just because you
To
can go
keep
like
it is
this,
hard.
yes,
And then in the 5th round when
That was
Volk
that was-
dropped Islam,
yeah, that
and
was a
then
crazy
landed on
round.
top.
Dude, it was a great
Islam
fight.
was just like there.
It was a close fight.
surviving.
If they rose Volk's hand, I would. I mean,
Just
I would
give
have been
it-
so happy
Give
because
it
he's my
another
guy.
For
give
sure.
it another minute, and I feel like it would have been over because he was just going at it for the last.
Man,
minute.
there's a lot of fights like that where you just wish there was another minute.
Yeah.
Oh, I wish there was another
Oh my
5.
gosh.
How about
10.
like Nate versus Leon?
Oh,
Mm.
But no,
Just-
he didn't even
I mean,
need
come
another
on.
minute,
Yeah,
man. He
Yeah.
I mean,
that just
that-
kind of happened.
The only thing I hate about that fight though is for 24 minutes, Edwards destroyed Nate Diaz. Like
He
it was
was
like
getting
bad.
fucked up.
And then, but now Nate's just like Nate. So Nate
If he
can say whatever.
didn't point, I think
he would have finished him, dude. He was in La La Land. Did you see that fight live?
Yeah, I was at Miller's. It's a restaurant. We were just watching it
Yeah.
at the bar.
I got this tournament, and then right after the tournament,
We're going
we're gonna be
straight.
watching
Nice.
UFC 288. So that's great, man. We ought to have you on the Talk Bout podcast. Maybe
Original.
after we do, maybe we should. Maybe we'll all watch a fight sometime. Because
Yeah.
I didn't
we
know.
should,
I
dude.
didn't know you were so into it. Like,
Huge
this is
MMA
great.
fans.
Yeah.
We can literally, yeah. We'll get you on the Talk Bout podcast, our MMA podcast,
Oh, let's do it.
and we should debate some
For
stuff
sure.
because this is great stuff for sure. Before we wrap everything up, I just wanted to ask one last thing. Do you think that losing when
Mhm.
you compete, especially because you're at the highest level in jiu-jitsu that there is, obviously there's so many good grapplers in the whole world, but you're a black belt in jiu-jitsu. That's something to be extremely proud of. When you are at that level, do you look back and go, man, it was really important for me to lose that fight, this match, whatever it is, is that something that you think about?
Yeah, man. Having a false sense of security is something it's just not good especially when you're at like a middle or a lower belt trying to progress, because the wake up calls are so much more brutal the longer you go with that false sense of security. So yeah, the losses that I took, now there's some of them that I wish I won, but some of them weren't necessary. Even though they hurt, even though they were on like big stages, I don't know. For me, it helps me learn. They say that what do they say? I don't even pay attention. There's winning and there's learning. To me, that's not true, because every time you go out to compete, you're trying to win, right? But sometimes you just have to swallow and say, all right, it did not go that way, and I have to take what I got. And what I got is this loss. I have some footage on it I could study, and I could get a drilling partner that I like, and I care about him getting better too, or her, and we could fix those things. So it's necessary, but don't make it a habit, because then you're just competing and losing all the time. For no
Yeah,
reason,
for
you
sure.
know?
And I actually want to end it on this because I think I've asked this question to every grappler I've had on the podcast. I I think I asked it to Chris. I know I asked it to Chris because it's a clip. And I asked it to Eric and also Dave. What do you prefer? I already know the answer, but what do you prefer, no gi or gi?
For
competing and practicing.
Practicing gi, competing no gi.
Dude, that's how I am too.
Really?
I it's weird. I'm a wrestler too, but I like practicing in the gi. I feel like I
Yeah.
learn like so much. It's so slow. I don't have to get like anytime I stand up with anyone, it gasses me out too. Just because I wrestle or did wrestle
Yeah,
it
I'll drink
sucks.
to that. But here's the thing: there's a lot of things that I wanted to do that I said I would absolutely do before X, Y, and Z happened, but it just never came to be. And jumping in your first tournament as a blue belt when you're only a white belt, think about 8 years from now when you're here and someone else is there and they're talking to you about it, you get to say that, and I think that's pretty cool.
You know what though? If I go in this tournament and I place, it will look good on me. It will look very good on me.
Yeah,
for me.
absolutely.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I'm hoping to maybe get your purple belt moment and get my blue belt on the podium.
That'd be sick.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully, I send you a photo and I got my blue belt. But
Nice.
we'll see what happens. I'm just trying to. The first, so my original point when I was talking about UFC 288 is we were gonna go,
Mhm.
and then I found we weren't. So I was like, you know what? Chris is doing the tournament as well. A couple other guys at the gym, and I really
Chris
wanted
Kelly?
to do it. Yeah,
He's competing?
yeah,
Good.
yeah. It's
Glad
about
he is.
time. Yeah. So yeah. And then I was like, I'm doing it. So I had 3 weeks to prepare. Felt like the first week I was just kind of, dude, the nerves already was getting to me. Second week, I went to South Carolina for the weekend for a wedding. But from Monday to Thursday, I trained really hard last
Nice.
week. And then this week, I've been trying to take it easy. And I actually feel pretty calm. I know the only way I lose is if I get caught. That's kind of that's how I feel. And with these guys, like I said, these, they're blue belts for a reason, and some of them could be on the cusp of purple belt too. So it's like
What I found
playing
is
with fire a little bit. And
that-
I'm this 4-stripe white belt, but in this tournament,
at blue belt, what I found is a lot of blue belts at a tournament like the one you're going to be doing, you're going to see a lot of one-trick ponies.
they got one plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or sometimes even one move,
Yeah.
But that's something also we didn't talk about is nerves, dude. Nerves they kill me, man. You wouldn't believe it, or maybe you would. I don't know, but they kill me. They hurt, man.
Dude, I'm telling you, no exaggeration. Like, I'll listen to music sometimes before I go to bed, and music just hypes me up so much. And dude, my heart goes crazy thinking about this tournament.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna have everybody there watch. My whole family's going. My girlfriend's going, and her whole family, and Riley's gonna be there, obviously. And there's just a lot of pressure. But like I said, if I go in this tournament, I'm going up weight too. I'm underweight right now.
What's the weight class?
170. I was gonna cut to 155, but there was nobody in the white belt 155, so I was gonna do 170. There actually is blue belt 155, but I'm not gonna cut 3 days out. So I'm going up weight, I'm going up a belt, and I'm looking to prove a point. So if I can go up weight, up a belt, and do something, I'll be happy. I mean, like I said, what's the worst that could happen? I lose.
Yeah, I know. You
know what I mean?
don't. The referee doesn't raise your hand.
It's
You
who
don't.
gives-
You don't get a
nobody-
plastic medal.
Yeah. So it is what it is. But Eric, thank you so much for doing this,
Yeah,
man.
Yeah, dude.
I'm not even gonna lie.
Yeah.
I feel like we probably say this to every guest, but this was the best podcast we've done.
Really?
You broke things down so well.
Good.
Everybody needs to follow Eric on Instagram. I think your thing is, what is it, Naples Syrup?
Naples_syrup.
Yeah, so make sure I'll put it up on
10
the
years
screen.
strong, I've had
yeah,
that.
that's great, man. And make sure you guys follow him. Check his stuff out. He's an absolute wizard on the mat. It probably won't be the last time we get him on the podcast. I'm sure we'll reroute this in a couple months to a year.
Talk about some fights some more.
Yeah, and especially, with the progress of Riley through jiu-jitsu, myself through jiu-jitsu. Yeah, that'll probably be the next thing we do. Get you on the Talk Bout podcast, and we talk about some UFC
It's gonna
stuff.
be like 4 hours, dude. I can talk about fights all
That's
day.
great. Yeah, I know. That's why I was like, we should probably wrap this up because we're going to be here all night.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you to Penn Del Mar Power for having us, the official home of Talk Bout. Shout out Rev. Make sure you guys go to RevBJJ.com. You guys can sign up for your jiu-jitsu career or do the cardio kickboxing class. It's a great gym. Make sure you sign up. Riley, you got anything else to say?
No. Great talk.
Thanks again, Eric. Fantastic podcast. You guys can listen to this on all audio platforms, also on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe. We really appreciate it. Hope you guys have a good day, and peace.
Peace.